You guys have been very patient with me. The last 3 to 4 weeks, you've given me a break as I've recovered from back problems and recently recommitted to my pledge and failed you on Friday. A few of you called me out. You know what that means.
Yeah. We can't handle this. Don't know what's going to happen, baby. Keep saying Los Angeles Cali boy. Come on, every day, Disney Channel flow. Been on YouTube for 6 months. Never done before. Past all the competition.
15, 16, shut up! 80, 20,
with the crew.
Oh, I hate that song. I hate it. Look, what's the point of accountability if I don't hold myself accountable? Thank you for calling me out. I've done 20, 25, and now 30 push-ups. Next time I shortchange myself, it's 35. So at some point today, I've got to exercise so I don't have to do that again. Anyway, let's move on to the content and topic of today. Today I'm going to be filming a WACOM video. I'm wearing my WACOM shirt. Today is the moment a lot of you have been waiting for. 6 months ago, I unboxed this baby. The WACOM Mobile Studio Pro 16. Now, it's been quite a while and I told you I would review it in a month or two, I believe were my words. It's been 6 months. I'm sorry about that. There have been a number of reasons for the delay. One has been waiting on a stand, which didn't eventuate, so I got a few other stands. Part of the delay was also me familiarizing myself with the tablet, and I wasn't really able to do that, to be frank, until I had a stand, and now I had two, so I've been familiarizing myself with it. And then beyond that, it was delayed slightly further because I also got a 13-inch, so now I have two Mobile Studio Pros, because I figured, you know what, I'm gonna do the most extensive Mobile Studio Pro review there is, because I don't wanna leave you guys with anything sort of that's already out there. I wanna give you something really special, so I'll be benchmarking both of them today, and I'll be talking about the differences between them and the specs and stuff. And then the other reason for the delay was the studio and all the madness that happened with that. But the great thing is, we're ready. Today is the day. I've got two Mobile Studio Pros. I'm gonna benchmark them both and record a bunch of B-roll. I've got a bunch of B-roll I've gathered over the many months that I've used this thing on flights, on trains, and various other situations. And today is the day where I gather all this stuff, put it all together, write a concise review, do all the benchmarks, show all the specs, and make a really special piece of really cool review content, which has been in the works for a long time. So I'm hoping that will release next week sometime. I'm gonna work hard to make that happen, so thank you all for your patience, but a lot of people have been asking for this, and it's high time I made it happen. The bonus thing, of course, though, is that we have Studio 2. So all the B-roll of the actual product shot are gonna look really nice, because they're gonna be in the studio with pro lighting and with my slider. Like, it's just gonna be epic. So I'm hoping you'll feel like it was worth the wait. Okay, so I have three tablets here. One is the old CINTIQ Companion 2, and then I have the two Mobile Studio Pros. So I'm benchmarking all of them together because I think people will want to see how the Mobile Studio Pros compare to the CINTIQ Companion 2, which is the former model, but then also how these two compare to one another. Before I started, I did do a little bit of finalizing of the setup behind here. We had this thing arrived, which is a battery pack. So I have one of these in my office, and now we have one in here, which means that if, I mean, for example, you can see the computer's on now. If the power cuts, the computer's still on, I get a warning beep, and it's time to shut down. So that's really useful, and it just means that all of the computers will be hooked up to that, and if I'm doing VR or streaming and filming on both computers, I won't lose everything if the power cuts, so I just thought you'd be interested to know that. Anyways, it's time to set up all this stuff and get some B-roll happening. I'll be using my sexy slider for some cool drama shots of the tablets on their own and sort of set up as products, but then also next to each other while they're running benchmarks and a whole bunch of miscellaneous B-roll footage. All right, and after about 15 minutes of setting up, I have an epic product shot set up. This is just an example as to how cool the modular usability of the studio is. Like, I've just pulled the couches and a bunch of stuff out of the way, pulled the sound foam panels off to the sides, set up the lights to really brighten up the background, the white walls in the background, and just have one light off to the side here to give a little bit of light on the products themselves. And then I'm going to set up a slider and get some cool zoom shots and sliding shots, and just set up all the different products, get B-roll of different random things like the stands that I think are cool. Basically, the key is to get more than you think you'll need, just so that you have it just in case. So yeah, that's what's next. Is I'm going to first get the product shots, second get shots of all the devices' various benchmarks. So I have footage of that and also have the benchmarks. And then the last thing I want to do today is set up the Mobile Studio Pro 16-inch with the Vive and see if it runs VR. Now, I've said before that this is the first thing that came to my mind when I first saw the specs for it. It doesn't say it'll run it. Like, when I run the test, it says it's not compatible because it's not obviously like a proper desktop PC. But you know what? I'm not going to forgive myself if I don't try, because it's a question I need answered. Can it run Tilt Brush on the lowest settings? That's all I want to know. Anyways, so that's what I'm doing. Let's get started. Oh, there we go. It's kind of hard to show in the vlog, but you'll see when the video comes out. All right, it's benchmark time. I have two benchmarks on all three tablets. And I'm going to start up the first one, which is the Unigine Heaven benchmark, which I'm using because it's exactly the same as the one I benchmarked the CINTIQ Companion 2 with back in the day. So here's something you might find interesting. This is all of them running the same benchmark, and funnily enough, the CINTIQ Companion 2 is running the smoothest compared to the other two. Now, wait a second, that obviously doesn't make sense, but the reality is this one and this one are running 4K. So they're running all the same settings, but with quadruple the intensity. The Mobile Studio Pro 13 inches running at an average of 4 or 5 frames a second, and the 16 inches averaging at around 7 to 8 frames a second. But all of a sudden, when I run the same benchmarks on all of them in the same resolution, that being 1080p, then you can notice the difference. The 13-inch Mobile Studio is not surprisingly about the same as the CINTIQ Companion 2, and that's because it doesn't have a GPU and it has relatively the same stats, except of course a newer generation Intel chip processor. The 16-inch, of course, is pretty sexy, especially for a very, very thin device. The results of this benchmark are much nicer when you lower the resolution. So there's a pro tip for you. If you're going to use your Mobile Studio Pro for gaming, get the 16-inch with the graphics card and set the resolution down to at least 1080p. Okay, so I spent the last couple of hours getting B-roll of using the device, so showing off like pen strokes and pressure sensitivity, all that stuff. I feel like I have everything. The day's coming to a close, but there is one last thing I want to do, just for closure. It may not work, but I want to see if this thing can run virtual reality. I'm so bummed out. The Mobile Studio Pro uses mini DisplayPort, and I can't find my converter. I've spent the last half an hour looking for it. I have my VR stuff ready to go. I have it updated, and I'm just like really bummed out because I just lost my converter, and it's getting way too late. So the question will remain unanswered for now. Bummer. I was really hoping to include that in the review, but I guess I'll miss out. Maybe I'll get time before I put the review together later this week, but chances aren't great. Anyway, I need to pack up and finish up in here. On the plus side, the whole studio took about 5 minutes to put back exactly as it was. Time to say goodnight to the studio and wrap up for the day. Good night, studio. I'm really bummed out I didn't get to test VR out on the mobile studio. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty short on time. So short on time, in fact, that even though I suffered through the Jake Paul consequence this morning, I still didn't get time to go do any exercise. So I'm hoping that later this evening I can quickly dash off to the gym and do something, but we'll see how I go. I really don't want to do push-ups tomorrow again. 35 Jake Paul push-ups. Bastard. Anyways, wrapping up with the question of the day from Frederike Jensen, who says, what does Mrs. Jazza do? I become curious seeing you set up her workspace. Mrs. Jazza is the left side of my brain, and she's my business partner and the business manager of Jazza Studios. So I'm the face and creative brain behind everything that you see on the channel. But Mrs. Jazza is just like the machine that keeps it running. She helps me with emails, she does contract negotiations and deals with sponsors because I barely get time to look at my emails these days. She keeps me organized and on schedule. She's basically all of the nuts and bolts that holds it all together. Because if you couldn't tell, I tend to fall apart because I schedule badly and struggle to get everything done that I want to get done. And she makes it all possible. So thanks, Mrs. Jazza. Anyways, thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen. Really hoping at the end of this vlog I tack on a bit of me at the gym so I don't have to do push-ups tomorrow morning, but I made it to the gym at 9:30 p.m. You don't win today, Jake Paul. You don't win today. I'll see you all tomorrow.